Testing. Are we ready to roll?
Testing. That working?
All right. We have 1 hour with you all this afternoon, and we're going to jump right in, and we're going to make this hopefully very exciting, intriguing, compelling. And we don't have PowerPoints because the technology didn't quite work for us that way. I think we do have time for the popcorn. What do you think?
Sure.
Let's
yeah,
do it.
Let's do
Okay,
it.
so we're going to ask you each we're going to pop around the room really quickly, like 30 seconds, 20 seconds or less, because we really would like to know what you're interested in about Community Land Trust so we can be responsive to your questions, because we're going to subscribe to in the Pacific Northwest. So let's just pop around. Would you introduce yourself briefly, and what's your number one question about CLTs?
Hi, my name's Alan. I'm a MERP student of Masters of Urban and Regional Planning at PSU here, second year, about to graduate. I am kind of fuzzy on the difference between land trusts and land banks.
Okay.
So
Next.
Land bank.
clear
Great.
that.
Land trust, land banks.
Got it.
Same.
What's the relationship between social housing and land banking?
Social
Okay.
housing and land banking. How about over here?
I'm for Butters for Perpetuity. I'm curious about how this can connect with shifting narrative away from property rights.
Okay, shifting narrative away from property rights. All right, right here.
What was the question?
We're just quick introduction and what's your top of mind question about CLTs?
Oh,
Community Land Trust, sorry.
Yeah, I'm Sax Grenaz, they pronounce. I work at the Sierra Club. My big question is, how do we make community land trusts accessible and scale up?
CLTs accessibles and scaled up. Beautiful. And I'm not going to give you a second. Go ahead.
Yeah, hi, Scott Sharba. Also a second-year MERP at PSU. I'm also working in the development department of the Vancouver Housing Authority. Already some good ones. I had some questions about land banking and then also
Okay.
how CLTs can scale up.
Land banking, scale up. You can ask others later, but we're going to popcorn quickly. Yeah.
My name is Sam Stuckey. I'm an architect and small developer here in Portland, and my question is also about the scalability.
Scalability. And if someone's already said it, just say what they said. Go ahead, right here. Cole?
Hey, my
Hi,
name's
Cole.
Cole. I'm from Seattle, and I'm basically interested in how do you convince people to maybe give their land or make it easier to get their land into a CLT if it seems like it's against their interests.
Great.
That's a tough one.
I
All
want
right.
that one.
Okay, go ahead over here.
Hi, my name is Olivia. I work for Multnomah County. I'm interested in learning about active community land trusts here in Portland.
Great.
Perfect.
Back there.
I'm Eric and Lauren, and I run an organization called Suburb Futures. I'm interested in land trusts in suburbs, in particular mobile home parks.
Mm-hmm.
Gotcha. Right over here. Oh, sorry, back there.
Chris Pierce, a resident of Portland, and what are community land trusts?
What are community land
We'll,
trusts?
we'll start with that.
Yeah, we'll start right there. Next to you.
Hi everyone, Zoe Klingman. I work for the Oregon State Legislature, and I had the scalability question, but I also have the manufactured home park question.
Great.
So I'm going to double up on that one.
Tom, hearing with Common Ground, Oregon, Washington, interested in how a land value tax might work in concert with community land trust objectives.
All right, David.
David from Portland, want to know more about starting a community land trust.
Great.
All right. And right behind him.
Mike Nahas from Austin, Texas. I'm an economist. I'd like to hear what are the comparisons of community land trust to other methods and the costs. It seems to be very costly. What are the benefits versus other methods?
Costs.
Of doing home ownership or of housing?
Land trust.
Other approaches to, in Austin, they're talking about it for anti-displacement.
Oh,
Yeah.
got it.
Other approaches to anti-displacement.
Okay.
Okay. Right there.
I'm Jackie with an organization with Ryan Hood River, and I'm curious about how the process goes and how to communicate that process.
Awesome. And next to her.
Hi,
Okay.
I'm Taylor from Bellingham, Washington. I'm interested in quite a few things about land trusts, but primarily scaling, how can we get more, and kind of the developer side. Not all land trusts are really good at the development side of it, but they
talk about that.
Yep.
Right over there.
Hi, I'm Jay from Portland. I work the Sightline within the Democracy Program, so I don't know a lot about community land trusts, and I'm excited to learn more.
Yay.
And next, Jim?
I'm Alexis Biddle with 1,000 Friends of Oregon, and I am mostly interested in how government, if land trusts can be something that is operated through government program or with as partners government programs, and like different mechanisms to like snowball get some revenue that can make more land trusts.
Awesome. Next, Jim?
I'm Dave, resident of Portland. I'm going to be happy hearing answers to all those other
Excellent. And back there?
Hi, I'm Mark Wooters. I'm an urban planner in New York City, and we have a larger scale master planning project not in New York City. And I suspect we will be incorporating a community land trust within that project, which may include commercial uses.
Okay,
So
we'll
I
touch
think
on that.
very commercial.
And in the back?
Oh, hi, I'm Sam Egan. I'm a volunteer and a community development student here at PSU, and here to take it all in and help out.
Perfect, thank you.
Hi, I'm Jeff Burns. I'm from Somerville, Massachusetts, and we have a recently born land trust, and I'm curious to hear how I can help them from my position as an advocate, because as you might imagine, a brand new land trust in a very expensive place is a very challenging thing to do. They're just starting to build up their coffers, and so, you know, what does that work? How's that gonna work? I wanna figure it out. I think it's great.
Awesome. And back there?
Hi, my name is Jordan Palmieri. I work for the Oregon Department of Environmental Quality, and I'm interested in government's potential role in land trusts.
Great.
Did we miss right here?
Oh, yeah.
Just very quickly.
Sure.
What's your?
Lydia Ness, with Cascadia Partners, similar to Alexis's question, and how, including within that, is housing production strategies, and how can we help cities think through using this tool as one of the ways to do that.
Great. Did you?
No, I didn't. I'm Sam Day. I'm an architect developer out of Oklahoma City, and I'm interested in learning about mechanisms to make sure that the land trust can last as long as the land does.
That's the plan.
We love that.
We like that. And right here?
Yeah, Don McCosier, I'm with TRC, energy consultant, and want to make sure that I understand how energy efficiency and renewable energy can not be a detriment to development of
Excellent.
of homes.
I want that one.
Oh, you got that one. All right. we do that too. Thank you.
I'm Terry, and I was a houseless direct action person in Portland, but I went to Standing Rock, and then now I'm back where my home is, up in Anchorage, Alaska, and it's very much a colonized team. So I'm really curious, like how I can use all the different kind of mechanisms to make space and freedom for folks to be able to act on their hearts rather than what the law says.
Thank you, Terry. Glad you're here. I think we're going to jump in now.
Yeah, great. So we're going to kind of tag team back and forth on some of these topics and hopefully cover as much of your questions as possible. I'm going to start with that intro, the basic description of what a community land trust is. And Diane's going to cover, we should introduce ourselves. I don't think we did that. Diane's going to cover the governance piece, and then we're going to talk a little bit about our different organizations. So scale is a big thing, and environmental sustainability of our homes is a big thing for us. Racial equity dynamics and the ways we try to live into a deeply anti-racist and anti-oppression mode vary within our organizations, but very, very important. So I'm Kathleen Hosfeld. I'm the executive director at Homestead Community Land Trust, 30 years old, in Seattle, King County, 235 permanently affordable homes.
And I'm Diane Linn. I'm executive director of Proud Ground right here in Portland, Oregon. And we're reaching over to Clark County and down into the more rural parts of Oregon. Proud Ground has about 445 homes in portfolio, served over 500 families over a 20-year window with about nearly $30 million of subsidy assets that we're stewards of, that really represents the land under the homes that we've helped provide for working families. We're all about permanently affordable home ownership for working families.
Right.
That's our goal.
Amen. So community land trusts were started in Albany, Georgia, is in the context of the civil rights era. As at the time in the 60s, the Student Nonviolent Coordinating Committee was going around to predominantly black communities saying, you need to enroll to vote. You need to register to vote. And civil rights leaders were active in that place at the time. Charles and Shirley Sherrod, Representative John Lewis, the late Representative John Lewis, and a cousin of Martin Luther King Jr., Slater King, who was a really well-known and successful real estate broker. They had been researching ways to prevent displacement and allow wealth building in the black community leading up to this triggering event. The triggering event was that many people enrolled to vote, and the white landlords threw the black sharecroppers off their land, meaning that they didn't have a place to live and they didn't have a way to make a living. And this was this triggering event that caused them to start the very first community land trust, which was New Communities. And in so doing, they established this model that is the same model we use today, which is collective ownership of land and individual ownership of assets on the land, homes, farms, businesses. That has been broadened over time to cultural spaces, urban ag, all kinds of different things that that people want to have collective ownership of land, much as it is on certain reservations. But collective ownership of land, and then individual wealth building ownership of assets on the land. So the goals of displacement prevention and wealth building continue to occur. This is a model that works really well in the current environment. Displacement is happening for different reasons today. It's not necessarily political oppression, it's gentrification, which maybe you could interpret as political oppression, but let's just say it can occur for purely economic reasons as well. But in 1990, our good friend Bernie Sanders enshrined in federal law the definition of community land trusts, which they are in a statute that relates to housing developers. So they're in the same statute as the Community Housing Development Organization, or CHODO, is. So community land trust is a membership-based, nonprofit organization that acquires and develops land for the benefit of low and moderate income communities, and does so and keeps things affordable through use of leasehold access to the land. And that leasehold access can vary depending on the type of asset. But in community land trust home ownership, which is what our emphasis is, individuals buy what we call the sticks and bricks of the home, and they finance that with a conventional mortgage through a regular bank, Fannie Mae compliant, 30-year fixed rate in our case. They accrue equity at a formula rate, so they do not accrue equity at a market rate. It's usually a formula. In our shop, it's 1.5% compounded annually, which with current home prices the way they are, that's about $7,000 of equity for every year you own the home. And they agree to resell that home at the time of their choosing at that formula price to the next income qualified buyer that seeks to purchase that home. We provide lots of stewardship and back-end support. We are obviously attached to these homes. We're intent on keeping them permanently affordable, resale after resale. So we show up and support our homeowners, and we support them in the maintenance of these homes forever. That's having that intention of being around for the 99-year ground lease to renew, because it can renew, is the intention of forming a community land trust. So I'll stop there with the definition, and I'll hand it over to Diane.
Okay, a couple more elements that I'd like to throw into this, which is what it means for working families is we bring the down payment. What is the biggest barrier to home ownership for most people, most working families? The down payment. 20% is critically important because we can avoid private mortgage insurance, which it really adds to this pressure of affordability. Then we facilitate the purchase of, in our case, a home on the market most of the time. Now, we're all about building new units and creating opportunity for more units to be built, which is why we're huge supporters and been intricately involved in the residential infill efforts, and we'll talk about that a little bit later. But when families are doing everything right, they've got a job, their credit scores are good, and we help them because we're a HUD certified counseling agency, along with our culturally specific partners. We help families get ready for homeownership and give them a path forward. Then we facilitate as opportunities really arise, which is really the kind of the identification of subsidy for each family, because the gap between how much they can afford, which is here, and how much it costs is here. So that gap is, while it's expensive, affordable housing in general is expensive because we've done all the wrong things for, really 100 years. Now we have to make it right, and that's expensive. So let's not suggest that, we shouldn't invest too much because that's not fair. What's unfair is the value that's been stripped of families egregiously over a long period of time. So we're here to right the wrongs, turn the market on its head, and say, we don't care about the value of the home, we care about the affordability to families for the long haul, family after family, or the family stays in the home for the duration and gifts it to their children. There's still the deed restriction, we're still a partner with them. So as a community land trust, we have a very important governance structure. A third of our board is called tripartite board. A third of our board is made up of homeowners in the program. Because when you buy a home through a community land trust, in the case of Proud Ground, you're empowered to not only be free of the rental nightmare that a whole lot of people are experiencing, you're able to anchor your children in community, and we do really focus on, as many people hear from me all the time, on family size units. And we make sure that we are also partnered with them, with the families after they purchase. In other words, we are engaged in post-purchase supports for the families also. We're in it with them. We're partnered with them. Because a conventional mortgage can be brutal for families too, and we ensure that they spend no more than 38% of their incomes on all of their housing costs coming in. That's a front-end ratio. That's very important. Now, again, they can stay as long as they want. In Portland, our formula is slightly different. It's 25% of the increased value from appraisal to appraisal. So family gets every penny they put in to their principal payments in the time they stay in the home, and 25% of the increased value. In Portland right now, that equates to about $98,000 in 10 years' time. So for not having to bring a down payment, having a loan facilitated, being in partnership with the Community Land Trust, they're building equity generationally, and that home gets resold to the next income qualified family at a lower AMI. And average median income is, our target is around 60 to 80. And that means we can serve a family below 60% of median income. Mm-hmm. Now in Portland, I do want to mention that we have a very important partnership with Habitat for Humanity, and Preston's here, one of my closest community partners. So we also bring all the Habitat homes that are built in the Portland region into our portfolio to retain permanent affordability for them too. And our job is to steward that part of that relationship. Lower income families, 35 to 60% of median income, get a lot more backing from Habitat. We can talk more about that if you're interested. And we all charge a small land lease fee. It's less for the Habitat families because they're operating more on an edge, on a margin. The governance piece is very important. The other third of our board is made up of partners, usually our community partners like Habitat and culturally specific agencies or lender partners, and then the final third are at-large supporters of our program. So this is the community and community land trust is that part. People vote on every year on the board. They vote on, if it's an important enough policy, we send it out to the membership, and it's just a very community-based entity. So okay. I think we want to go into some advocacy and equity conversation. And sorry we're hitting you rapid fire with this because we don't have much time today, yeah. And we hope it's penetrating.
Yeah. Go ahead. I also, just to piggyback on the governance piece, and in Homestead, it is our homeowners that are our members, although we do have a small class of community membership, so you can be a community member and be a member of Homestead, but it's members that elect the board. and they elect the officers of the board, and they serve on the board, a third of them. So in that way, we are centering the voices of the people that we serve in our governance, and they retain the right to make really key decisions about our organization. So that's really important. I think we wanted to talk a little bit about our respective organizations, just so you can see a little bit of difference in the flavors of our organizations, and then we'll talk about how we do advocacy together. Homestead is a housing developer, so we didn't used to be. We used to be a buyer-driven organization, which meant we provided subsidy to people who came to us to purchase off the open market. Housing prices in King County diverged so significantly starting in about 2014. I mean, we had the run up to the housing bubble, and they started to diverge, and then they reset for a while, a market correction, but then they've exploded since then. And the difference between what our folks can pay is so our homes are typically $237,000 to $302,000. The difference between the way we price our homes and what's affordable and what is affordable or what's available in King County is their median is $800,000, but there are neighborhoods in Seattle where it's 1.2 for just a little regular starter home. It's like a 2, 3, 4 bedroom home. So in about 2015, we said, hey, if we're going to grow as a community land trust and add new homes to the trust, we're not going to be able to do this buyer-driven program. So we committed ourselves to becoming housing developers. The difference, frankly, between a land bank and a community land trust is a land bank takes pieces of land that are contributed through foreclosure or tax foreclosures or disinvested properties that are gifted, frankly. They clean up title. They go in and do the legal work so that then a nonprofit can come back and develop it and have free and clear access to the land with no encumbrances that have to be cleaned up. There's a land banking with a lowercase l, lowercase b, which is when a nonprofit buys land and then holds it for like 5 to 10 years until the price at which we purchased it is so much lower than the escalated price in the market that it contributes to the affordability of the homes that are being created at that time. So I got the land bank question.
I got one more.
But so we build new homes. We just finished 12 net zero energy homes in Renton in last summer. We're just finishing up 10 homes in the Central District, the historically black district of Seattle, that'll go on sale in a couple of weeks. Those are highly energy efficient with solar panels, but not net zero. We're breaking ground on another net zero energy project in Tukwila. And we've got 4 other projects in the pipeline that we are building. One of the important parts of our organization is partnering in and with community. So we're trying to do equitable development in and with community coalitions who want affordable home ownership. Most significantly is our partnership with the community of Skyway, which is the largest population black neighborhood left in Washington state. So they have a beautiful and amazing community coalition that has invited us in for a partnership. And so we want to be developing and building homes in and with their help and support. Let's see. I think that's
Let me go in a little bit more into detail. So many of you asked about scale, and I think Kathleen represents kind of the Seattle, which is a leading edge ahead of us on affordability here in Portland. We call it a buyer-initiated program, which is we identify, and we have about 400, maybe 450 families on our wait list right now. Half of whom are mortgage ready at this point. So the problem is they land all the way across the AMI spectrum, so sometimes the opportunity doesn't fit quite right, but because we have all kinds of funding requirements. Now remember, the subsidy comes, which is really the key to scalability. You can create a land trust, you can start a brand new nonprofit, which is David, difficult to do when you already have one here. So I'm just going to put it out there, and that we can, it just takes a long time to build the capacity to manage the growth of a community land trust. That's the fact of the matter, because you have to raise enough money for the operations of a nonprofit, which in our case is about $1.1 million right now, for the really professional team of people that are brokers, project managers, they're housing counselors, they're post-purchase support people, they're fiscal, they're administrative, because we deal with a lot of government money. We're an extension of, and people have asked about government role. The federal, state, and local governments, and regional, we hope, contribute to the effort to fill that gap of subsidy in an environment where, along the housing continuum, homeownership's way out here.
Mm-hmm.
Homelessness, as we all know in this room, dominates the entire conversation about what needs to be invested in for all the right reasons. We can put that off to the side for a minute, and we support our community partners in dealing with that in every way we can. I've been on the Board of Housing in Oregon for years and really support all of our colleagues trying to do that work. The CDCs do a lot of really important building of critically important subsidized rental units. What we're trying to say is, if we believe in equity, if we believe in giving people a chance to own their own home, have gardens, have pets, again, kids go to the neighborhood school for as long as they want. They don't have to move around. Health indicators get better. Employment gets better. Involvement in the community gets much better. They feel so much less stress. If we're going to offer this, you've got to consider the importance of home ownership. Now, home ownership is done in several ways. What we provide is an investment from the public sector into the permanent affordability of home ownership, so we don't lose these homes on the open market. Because if you give people a down payment assistance grant, especially at $100,000, which is our average grant right now, and they can just, that could be forgivable in the future, that home will be sold on the open market and that investment's gone. Now, that family did really well, but we could have served 4 more. And we could have kept the homes off the market. This is what we're trying to do.
Mm-hmm.
We're kind of trying to secure units of housing of all kinds, of all flavors, and keep them off the open market. Because once they're there, they're gone. The market rolls on over
We're
the top
actually
every time.
trying to create an alternate economy for housing. It's I mean, like, don't let that get out of this room, right?
Don't tell anybody.
Don't tell anybody. Alternate economy for housing, and one that's democratically governed, community owned, community engaged. So not this concentration of wealth into the hands of smaller landlords and syndicates. It is community wealth, community building, and balancing that community ownership with individual wealth building, because that is how how people build intergenerational wealth, is through ownership of assets.
Yeah, our economy is really, really focused on that, as everybody knows. So when we get into the equity issues, ProgGround's goal in the city of Portland, and most of you know, well, in the region, most of you know demographics around here, pretty white, looking like me, more than, and we are dedicated to serving no fewer than 75% Black, Indigenous, people of color in our program. That's our goal, and it takes a lot of really concerted effort to partner with agencies that work in those different communities, and we bring that. We're also really committed, well, you can't tell sitting right here right now, that our team is quite diverse. We have over 50% people of color on our board, women, men, LGBTQ, and folks, and we are bringing much more diversity to the team, because I certainly believe that nothing should be done about a community without them. And they should lead it. So that's going to happen in the future. I'm just going to put that out there. So that's really important part of our equity goals. Now, last year, and again, thanks to Habitat's role in this, we achieved 83% people of color in our program, and we're shooting for at least 200 new homes in the next 3 years. And if few good things happen, it could be much more than that. So for those of you that are interested in scale, we need that continued and really increased commitment from the federal, state, and local governments in all kinds of ways to keep helping us fill that gap. Then we take those resources. We're held accountable. We have clean audits every year. Everything has got to be managed to the impeccable dollar penny, because we're the ones responsible for the government compliance. And then that money gets invested, not just in that one family, but in the community, again, around this permanent affordability element. So that's what we're focused on. Now, Kathleen just said that they become developers for, I think, all the right reasons. Prog Ground has done some development, but we really have been working to partner with other developers, including Habitat and private developers, and maybe CDCs and other development. We just heard in the session before, right over there, that building is very difficult, and I know some of you might be builders. We need more help building units at an efficient level that are durable and are family size. That's all we ask. But we're not going to use little tiny micro units. That's not going to work for a community land trust program. So we may be stepping deeper and deeper into development, and that's why we're so deeply invested in making sure that the single family neighborhoods are no longer exclusive to people that just own a single family home, that they're inclusive to duplexes, tris, quads, and deeper affordability 5 and 6 plexes. And boy, let me tell you, the nuances of that policy is so critically important. It either works with the right language in the code, or it's a great idea and doesn't work. Yeah. So this is what we advocate for. And I'll just put it out there. More money for subsidy, because without that, we can't fill that gap. That's the reality. And policy changes that open the door to more, remove barriers and open the door to more building, more units of all kinds that are efficient, effective, and energy efficient. And that we are leading right now with efforts to do land acquisition, because if we've just opened up residential infill, then we sure want to be able to purchase some land, hold it in the land trust until we're able to develop it or get a partner to develop it, so we can, again, hold that land. Usually we'll need more subsidy than just the land value, so that's not the only ticket. So that's really our focus, is the critical changes in public policy that allow those doors to be pushed open for more equitable housing, and with a land trust, as Kathleen just eloquently suggested, is really, holds the home off the market.
And I'll just add a couple things in terms of how to scale. It's not one methodology. It's really all of the above, and activating all the different ways that you could bring homes into trust and remove more and more land from the speculative market. A couple of things that we're doing in addition to our own direct development is we partner with for-profit developers and cities who are doing what they call density bonus agreements. So that's a really important piece when you can convince a city to allow additional density in exchange for permanently affordable homeownership units going into trust, either through community land trust, or some Habitats for Humanity also do a leasehold permanently affordable model. That's really important. We're doing some mixed income development. So because the subsidy is not sufficient in Washington State to build at the scale that we want, we are building some market rate units and using the difference between the cost to construct and what we can charge for them to subsidize the lower income units. So those are a couple of things that we're doing. But to echo what Diane was saying, we in King County, it takes about $550,000 to build a 3 or 4 bedroom townhome. What our folks can pay is somewhere around $237 to maybe $300. The difference is what we have to fill with subsidy. With subsidy, we need usually 2 or 3 different forms. We need state, we need city or county, and then we need some other form of subsidy. We need more of the private philanthropy. We need more of the Community Reinvestment Act funds to go to capital investments. So the more you can advocate for changes and reforms in the CRA policies to go to affordable homeownership and capital stacks for other projects, the better. But we also need land, and so surplus land policies. Washington State has made some really great steps towards allowing properties that have been owned by utilities to transfer for the purpose of being used for affordable housing. We have some adjustments to make in that doesn't quite work for homeownership in Washington State, that we need to revise that. But somebody asked about private land. We do one of our projects in our pipeline in the Finney Ridge neighborhood of Seattle is a piece of property that is being contributed by an individual who owns, it's a 9,000 square foot lot. He is just gifting that, and he is doing that as a legacy gift. And there, we plan to be doing some publicity around his gift and asking him to talk to the media about that gift, about why he was doing it. Because I think people really want to do that. They just don't know that they can. And I think I get a call at least once or twice a month saying, if I wanted to put Homestead in my will, what language would I need to tell my attorney to use? So I think there's pent up demand for places to put, for people to leave their homes and for people who have more than they need to contribute land for affordable homeownership.
I would add, and we're doing this rapid fire at you, so in a few minutes we'll open up for questions beyond what you already asked. I just heard somebody say there's no land available to build anything, and while that may be true in some unique property jurisdictions, we could build another small city in the city of Portland. Let's be honest. We're not considering the land that could be available. Publicly owned land, every jurisdiction owns pieces of land, every one of them. The school district owns acres. Churches, the faith community has really wanted to be a part of this conversation. We're on the brink of getting conveyed 1.3 acres in the city of Medford to Proud Ground to let them build 83, get this, 3D printed homes to replace homes that were lost in the wildfires, in the Alameda wildfires in 2020. This philanthropic team, Manon is his wife, architect, organizers, decided to gift us this land so we would hold these homes in permanent affordability. They don't want to do this big project, get families in there, and have these homes sold on the open market in the future. By the way, these are fire-resistant homes.
Yeah, that's the cool thing.
And that part is really cool. Now, we'll see how it all goes. I'm very, very hopeful that this could be another alternative form of construction beyond, and there's several others out there, modular, of course, and all kinds. So, a couple of people asked about manufactured home parks, and let me just put it out there that our model really relies on increased equity, an increase of value, and mobile home units, manufactured homes, are considered personal property. They're not a home in the same way, the ones that are anchored with foundations. So we haven't gotten in the manufactured park business yet, and we have wonderful community partners. Casa of Oregon, in particular, manages community co-ops. So we really support their efforts to do that. We don't do much by ourselves, and we really support the agencies and entities and organizations that do work we don't do. But what Proud Ground is we provide that niche of sustaining the permanent affordability with the administrative and fiscal infrastructure to expand as far as needed with as much, again, land and subsidy as we can get. That's the reality. I've had a lot of people call and say, can we just start one? Well, that doesn't create affordable housing. What creates affordable housing are those two major factors, the land and the ability to build units. And we've had some lovely, wonderful, good-hearted people spend 20 years trying to start a land trust. And you've got to get to about 100 homes to reach a level of sustainability, because our business model is based on the transaction fees that we get paid every time we buy or purchase or facilitate a home sale. And we get these land lease fees that pay the team to always be available on the other end of the phone. Land trust will fail miserably if the resale formula is not applied to the letter of the policies. There must be a team of professionals prepared to answer the phone and say, we'll help you sell your home as soon as you need it, and it'll be sold to the next income qualified family. Now, if we stopped expansion tomorrow, Proud Ground would sustain a team of people based on our guaranteed revenue at this point, based on that business plan. So it takes about, 10 years? 100 homes, 10 years to get there.
Yeah.
Otherwise, you don't have enough support to sustain that core team of
And
people.
you have to fundraise, and people don't like to fundraise. They don't like to give you money when you're just supporting your existing homeowners. What they want to fund is more homes. So we've seen that personally. And there were a couple of years when Homestead was not adding homes to trust. And as soon as we rebuilt our pipeline and were able to start adding homes to trust, then we started to see a lot of increased support. Do you want to? We can talk a little bit about how we collaborate on advocacy before we turn it over to questions. There's an entity called the Northwest Community Land Trust Coalition, and it represents Oregon, Alaska, Washington, Idaho, Montana, Nevada, Colorado. We annexed BC. We brought in a couple of territories that we really don't see that many members of, but we're that big. And we have a wonderful regional presence where we have our gathering, which is coming up in May. Encourage you to check that out if you're
Lake Chelan, Washington.
Lake Chelan is going to be great. Beautiful spring in central Washington. But in Washington State in particular, where the majority of our members are, we have community land trusts popping up like mushrooms in Washington State. It's crazy. But we have mobilized a community-based coalition that meets weekly during the run-up to the legislative session, and also during the legislative session, we hire a lobbyist, and we develop a platform of priorities, and then we work in coalition with other organizations to advance our goals. Sometimes they're as simple as just getting modifications to the first-time home buyer definition in statute. In other cases, we're trying to address the inefficiencies of the property tax, or surplus property legislation. But Diane, who has a foot in both Washington and Oregon, sits on that group and is always being the voice for, let's go bigger, let's ask for more. So
I'm so obnoxious about this. I don't want to talk about the definition of community land trust anymore. I want to talk about how do we add tens of hundreds of thousands of new homes. And we did pursue the inclusionary housing policy in part because of that. There are community land trusts around the country. There are about 300 agencies using inclusionary housing to designate that 20% of home ownership for affordability. And when partnered, a community land trust can absolutely partner with a governmental entity. It's happening all over the place to provide that, again, stewardship, accountable stewardship. It's very efficient. We're pretty nimble, and we can do that. So we can kind of work in partnership with government. In Oregon, we've joined, of course, we're actively involved in Housing Oregon. Preston and I are involved in the Partners for Affordable Home Ownership. Remember, sometimes, I really want to make this point, people talk about affordable housing and they don't even think about home ownership. It's literally not on the page. There's plan after plan after plan that have been developed, and we'll read it and go, there's absolutely no reference to the ability for a family to purchase a home and settle in, even though 65% of white families own their homes.
Right.
And 36% of black families own their homes.
Yeah.
And that's wrong.
Yeah.
And it's perpetuating this, income inequality, this inefficient, this inequitable plan. So we're really working in coalition all the time. And it's been a great honor to be a part of Portland Neighbors Welcome and Sightline efforts because they provide real technical assistance. Preston and I, we're running nonprofits all day, every day. We got a staff of people we got to supervise, and then we have to go down to Salem. Well, we used to go.
Olympia.
We go up to Olympia, or we go to City Hall, or we talk to the regional governments, or we pound on the door and say, hey, will you talk to us about the need to give people a chance. If you take the same family at 60% of median income, why wouldn't you give them the chance to own?
Right.
And really become a part of the thriving community of families, not families that are in a transition, waiting for the next best job or higher levels of income to get out. One CDC leader told me, community development agency told me, that 30% of their renters were now income overqualified for those units, those subsidized units. That means we're wasting valuable resources because we haven't really looked at the entire continuum to allow people to matriculate through.
Yeah.
And that doesn't mean that people have to, we should assume that people are going to be making $80, $90, $110,000 a year. I had a black mother tell me, I just want to do my job. I'm good at it. She worked at PCRI, which is a wonderful agency in Portland, works in the black community. She's raising her son by herself. And she served on our board of directors. She said, I want to do my job really well and still own a home to raise my son and give him a fighting chance in this environment. So that's what we're up to.
Yeah. So in Washington State, less than 4% of the total affordable housing spend over the last 15 years has gone towards affordable home ownership. And yet the population we serve is 44% of the people who would qualify for subsidized housing. So, that the fact that it's just off the table is interesting. We Homestead, I had this amazing team of volunteers assist in the this project called the ClosedDoorsReport.com. It's a Tableau dashboard that compares the population of the people in the income category we serve with the homes that are available. And in the most egregious case, I think there is one home for every 600 qualified and capable of being homeowner households. And those disparities exist all across the state. It's not just in King County. And it's because of this weird intersection of lack of production of homes by for-profit builders, those starter homes, and then underinvestment in the subsidized sector of the market. So this is something that we've got to fix, and that's why there is an intersection between, land use and increasing density, but at the same time, a desperate need for more public support and public investment in lowering the price of homes for the people that we serve. We won't. Zoning alone will not get us where we need to go. That will serve a certain part of the market, but we've got to have more subsidized construction of homes kept permanently affordable with the Community Land Trust model.
Look at the amount of PPP loans that were distributed in this last 2 years to businesses. And good. We want businesses to thrive. We have the money. We're just not applying it. And we're applying it in the wrong ways at late stage when families have disintegrated and children have to go to foster care and things are not working. They're getting moved from place to place to place. This is not only a opportunity to break the cycle of poverty once and for all for a family, it's also the purest form of anti-displacement you'll ever see. Again, a lot of policies can affect anti-displacement. Nothing's more important than a community ownership of the land under a home that can never be sold on the open market. Therefore, a private developer or a buyer can't offer a cash deal to a black family in inner Northeast where 10,000 black families were displaced, and it's probably a lot more than that. A lot of families were offered, well, we'll give you a couple $100,000, and we'll take it, and then that very same home is worth $600,000 or $700,000 or $800,000 now. That family was stripped of that equity, and that's what we're trying to prevent. These homes can never be sold in that way because we have to be at the table with the family because we're in partnership with them. So I think we're at time to take. Do you want to take it?
Yeah, we've got until 4:15.
Yeah. I think you jumped in first, and then we'll go over to Candace.
Can I go to a microphone, or are we doing that?
We'll repeat your question.
Okay. Something you just said about the anti-displacement that I think shows that I don't totally get it all. The families that buy into the home, can they stay in those homes indefinitely?
Yes.
Okay.
As long as they want, till the day they die.
Can they pass it
Yes.
Yes.
They can pass it on to their kids?
Yeah,
Yep.
so he's asking if they can stay in the home for forever, and can they pass it to their kids? Yes, these homes are inheritable. And once they've built equity, you can actually get a home equity loan on the equity you've earned. So that's also part of it, because some people need that.
It's also true that people sell their community land trust homes for the same reason that everybody else does. It's very similar mobility and that term.
We like to joke it's usually about love, losing it or gaining it. people either partner up or they lose their partnership, and that changes their housing needs. So some families leave for that reason. Most families, if their families are stable, really like the mortgage payments because they're less than what they would pay on the open market for a rental of less quality by a measure, especially in this market. Candace?
Whew, it's a lot to take in, but I'm really grateful, and I think I have a two-parter. So one, I just want to make sure I understand what the difference is between, I feel like I hear land trust and land bank used interchangeably. I don't know if they're interchangeable. Okay, I want to know what the difference is, and also what the difference is between a co-op. And then my other question, and I feel like many people in my generation, as we see in the news all the time, millennials are always breaking things, right? And we're breaking the whole having children thing. And I have just found, one, that it's really expensive to be single, and it's really hard I have a partner, but we're not married and whatever. So I have also found that a challenge, and I'm just curious, what does that landscape look like for people who are not intending to have children and grow their families, and how different is their access? Because I feel like so many programs, it's like family this, family that, and that's not my reality, and I don't know what that means for me.
Yeah,
so
it's
how
really
that fits into
So she's asking about what we consider family, and when we say family, that's whatever you determine is your family.
Household. We've started using the term household rather than family for that very reason.
Yeah. I spout it a lot because it's politically palatable for a whole lot more people, and I don't mean to overspout it because, and of course, again, we're trying to break the cycle of poverty. A land bank is very different than a community land trust. A community land trust is what Kathleen and I have described, is holding the land in permanent affordability.
Developing it.
Yeah.
We are developers, or we are actively acquiring homes.
Right.
Land banks do not actively develop land. They bring it into their bank. They have staffs that go in and address easements and title issues and resolve those so that we have what we call clean title. And then it can be transferred to nonprofit organizations or whomever for development. But then you don't have these problems that have who owns this part, and this little donut in the middle didn't come with the land. Well, that's got to be handled. So
we've been a part of a catalytic land cohort for about 3 years with 2 other cities, managed by a national group, amazing group called Center for Community Progress, and they take vacant lands and turn them into community assets, which is, again, also in support of lasting affordability is another way we put it. And that there are land bank authorities that do exactly what Kathleen just described. And there's land acquisition. Habitat does it. Just either people donate, which can happen, or purchase land that's held until it can be developed.
Yeah.
That's different than a community land trust, which is, again, what we've described over here. Is that helpful?
We call that land banking with the lowercase L
lowercase
and
L.
a lowercase b. It's like we're banking our land.
Yeah, we're just holding on to it until we can use it.
Not like being a land bank.
And then the co-op, what's the
Oh, the co-ops are a whole different structure. That's when a group of people come together, family or friends or a group of people, and then you split the cost of a unit. And I haven't done a deep dive as much as I'm fascinated and really support, and there have been some really wonderful.
I can tell you more about that at a break.
She's got a lot more background in that. The only problem is right now there's really no mortgage product that supports this right now.
In U.S.
I think it's a wave of the future, especially because people are teaming up to get homes together, units together. So hold on to that for the future, and Kathleen's got more background.
Yeah.
Way in the back?
You mentioned that micro units are not on your portfolio, And I was wondering about SROs. Do you count those as, or single room occupancy units? Do you count those?
No, but we're doing 1s, 2s, and 3s. So we've got the one bedroom homes, and I think some folks do studios. But
SROs are really. I spent a chunk of my career in the homelessness end of the housing spectrum. Those are really permanent supportive housing for people who have experienced chronic homelessness, to have the supports and they only need a little space and they need shared, facilities. That's not really our model. And again, Candace is right. We have emphasized the family size units for a variety of reasons, but I think that's right. The more variety we have, the more people we're going to be able to serve over time, but we don't really do SROs. Yeah, up here.
Indirectly related to the SROs, condos and leaseholds have typically not been super compatible for lenders. Like, do you know people doing, or either?
I'm doing 2 condo buildings right now.
Yeah.
Doing condos as a land trust.
Yep. Mm-hmm. So, yeah. So the way we secure agreements with buyers to participate in the land trust model, when there's dirt under the home, we use a ground lease. When it's in a condo setting, there's not dirt under the home, so we secure it with a deed restriction or a covenant. But it works the same. The tricky part about condos is just that sometimes the land trust can't actually own the land under the home. The condo association has to own the land. We're trying to think that through in Seattle for a variety of reasons, not the least of which is that some of the black churches want to be developing their land for home ownership, but they don't want to give away the land, or sell it. So we're trying to work through that. But it's kind of a misnomer that you can't do condos in a land trust model. You can. It's just with a deed restriction.
We have many condos, and we're going to have a lot more. Please don't let people just dismiss condominiums. They got a very bad rap along the way, and there's just there's defect laws that have suppressed it in all 3 of our states. And there's issues with them, but we can do community land trust, just as Kathleen described, with people that own units. And if, for all of you who are interested in going to scale, this is one of the ways we can get there.
Amen.
We have to be able to build multiple units. We've done them 1 by 1 by 1, single family homes, which is most of our portfolio right now. We need more town homes, we need more plexes, and we need more condominiums. They need to be managed well and right. There needs to be a reserve study. I did a deep dive into that because we almost built a condo building recently. And once again, because, again, of the lack of focus and understanding about the critical importance of home ownership, that project fell off the track when COVID hit 2 years ago. Heartbreaking. It was going to be 64 units. And it'll be rental. Oh, yeah, we're going to do rental. Yay. But we missed that opportunity. We've got time for almost one more question. Sorry. You raised your hand back there.
I was wondering how land trust plays a role, if at all, in existing homes.
Well, that's what we buy our homes. We help our buyers. We attach a grant to a family, and then we help them shop on the market. We have we're a real estate broker at Proud Ground, so we help people buy homes on the open market. The problem is, this year, there have been bidding wars, and you can't send a family in to say, hey, we're going to apply the community land trust, and can you consider our offer? Now, remarkably, I never cease to be amazed at how my team actually does find homes and does match them to homes, and we did it 44 times last year, and I'm still, actually, Habitat have developed many of those homes for us too. But yes, except, as Kathleen said earlier, we need to build more units efficiently because the market, it's just not really accommodating what we call buyer-initiated
They're
grants.
experiencing what we did,
and we're heading there
8 years ago. So
we're heading their direction, and the Bay Area is probably even way.
Beyond us. Yeah.
They're doing. Oakland is doing co-ops because the only way to own anything is to buy into a room in a house, because you can't touch anything else. Yeah. One more quick one back there.
Have either of you considered, for the properties that you have acquired, putting ADUs on the property?
Yeah. Yes, we have. We'd love to do more. It's a great asset to the homes that we have and the buyers. We've got people having family members and friends purchase those or rent those. I think it's a wonderful idea. We should do more of it.
We haven't done it because we want our buyers to tell our homeowners to tell us that that's what they want. Otherwise, it's us imposing our will on the land, and that's not our model. Our homeowners have exclusive access to the land that they are leasing, and so it's really their discretion. What the major barrier that we find is that they can't afford to build those units. They cost a lot, and they don't have enough equity, and they would get into debt to do so. So that's been the major barrier in us implementing that more extensively in our trust.
Yeah, the only way we've done it is agencies that provide that support to the home buyers. They're not doing it on their own. If they had extra money, they wouldn't be in a land trust home probably. We're kind of out of time. I'm so sorry. We're going to be around for a few minutes. Thank you all so much for your attention. So appreciate it. Community Land Trust. Woohoo! Hey, Mark.
CLT just subleased back.